Welcome to the GAME.minder Report, your weekly source of upcoming gaming news and information. It is the week of January 22nd, 2013, and the GAME.minder Report starts now. And in fact, we're doing something a little different this week on the GAME.minder Report. Jimmy P, who as you all know is now back to selling insurance, is calling in. He's doing a remote from the road. Isn't that right, Jimmy P?
Yes, I'm on I-77 North right now, so the roads are good. Let me see if I can give people a quick little idea of what's going on here. That's not working.
You should be keeping your eyes on the road, Jim.
I am. See? Woo-hoo. Gonna clean it up. Isn't this fun? Isn't this fun? So yeah, I am I'm driving, but I got 10 and 2. Got cruise control. Someone's yielding, so I'm gonna let them go and be the nice person.
Very nice.
It's all good. I'm just gonna stay in the slow lane and put the cruise control on and enjoy some lovely banter about games. Yeah, let's podcast it up.
This is, this is one of those moments where I realize that we are in fact living in the future, that you're doing not an audio podcast, but an actual video stream from your car, which I think is kind of neat, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I will give up the no flying cars for the fact that I can do this.
Nice.
In a heartbeat.
So speaking of the future, some interesting info leaked about the next Xbox. Apparently an actual technical schematic of the new Xbox leaked. It's looking like it's going to have an 8-core CPU, 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM. Any thoughts on that? I know like the idea of horsepower is kind of your big thing. So any thoughts?
Well, I would have to take a better look at it and actually have people like dissect it. One of the big issues, at least with the original which I think caused a lot of the red ring of deaths, was the big bottleneck between RAM and CPU. I think when they changed to like the 7N processor or something like that, that fixed some of those issues. But
my understanding of the red ring of death was that it was not about that.
What was it about?
It was about the heat that was bending the motherboard. Right,
the heat that was because there was a huge bottleneck and the processor was over compensating. So, I mean, am I predicting another red ring of death? No, because I think they'd be idiots if they didn't,
do some extra testing this time around.
Exactly. What I am curious about is more along the lines of, is it really going to be noticeable? I mean, I really think the jump from the PS2 and Xbox to the PS3 and Xbox 360, there was a very noticeable jump in polygons and, artifacts and look at the light and all that stuff. Is that going to be the same? Is there going to be a bigger jump, or are we plateauing?
Well, remember, the 360 had a 3-core PowerPC. This one's going to have an 8-core. I think it only had 512 RAM, and this is going to have 8 gigs of RAM. The GPU is going to be running at 800 megahertz, according to this. And then there's all sorts of other stuff. It's going to have HDMI 1.4, which is what you need to really truly support some of the high bandwidth stuff like 3D. Obviously, Connect 2 is going to be a dedicated thing. There's also going to be a Blu-ray drive, which is probably not really all that surprising. I mean, obviously, I'm sure that they're biting the bullet to have to give Sony any sort of a royalty on that. But I mean, what are they going to do?
It's probably less about the Blu-ray playback and more about we need to put more data on the disc.
Exactly. All right. Well, so I think that's a real quick sort of. I think we're gonna go boom, boom, boom because there's a bunch of things that I want to cover this week.
Boom, boom.
So one little hands on the wheel, buddy. Another thing is that for anybody who is an Elder Scrolls fan, the Elder Scrolls Online beta sign up went up just yesterday, I believe, 2 days ago. So if you're at all interested, if you're one of those people that played Morrowind, or you played Oblivion, or you played Skyrim, and you thought, this experience, all this needs is 1,000 more people on the same game as me, you can now sign up for the beta.
I love the idea. I am also going to play a little negative Nancy. I seem to do that a lot with these podcasts, but devil's advocate style. Wasn't the Star Wars MMO supposed to be the big World of Warcraft killer, and now this is supposed to be the
Well, this is what everybody's been saying is like, oh, okay, so a string of really successful single-player games, make an MMO. that worked really well for Star Wars. And that's kind of what people are saying about this. You know, I mean, I don't know. I think that the first KOTOR was awesome. The second one obviously was released before it was done. So I don't know if that necessarily had the same pedigree that the Elder Scrolls series does. I mean, the Elder Scrolls has just been one great game after another.
Right, and for the plus side for Elder Scrolls that Star Wars really didn't have is they already have built-in several class systems and things that you can do within this class system. So you can have a Khajiit be a mage, you can have a Norse warrior be a brute, and it all makes sense. Which is what world. So if there's any world that I think can pull it off, it's this world. Other than I think people were just hoping that Star Wars MMORPG would work. This actually, I think, has the apples to apples comparison to a World of Warcraft.
Sure. And I also do think that they would be stupid if they didn't learn some of the lessons that came from the mistakes that the Star Wars MMO made. You know, things like, we're going to make absolutely every single character in the game fully voiced. You know, that's a cool concept, but that made it cost way more and take way longer than it should have. And I don't think that they would make a similar mistake. At least I would hope they wouldn't make a similar mistake.
Yeah. And the whole point of your single player, I mean, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Elder Scrolls was always good with the fact that your character never said a freaking word or like barely spoke a freaking word. Which I thought was awesome about it. Like half the times you were just sitting there and like you would say nothing and it would work out perfectly. I'm excited for it, and it's one of those things now. And this could be another topic if we're a slow news day. I'm getting older and I don't have time to spend to play a 60-hour plus game.
Well, that's like I still have not yet played any MMOs, but you spend a little bit of time in World of Warcraft, right?
I spent a little bit of time. I spent enough time to realize that like everyone's saying, oh, the game doesn't start until level 25. And I was at level 18, and I still had 230 more boars to kill. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, but the game hasn't started yet for you. I was like, well, how about this? How about you just let me start the game when the game starts? Like, well, everyone has to do this. I was like, you know what? I like girls. Good night.
Well, you know, it's funny because I've been realizing just recently that I really want another fantasy RPG in my life. You know, like obviously I played Skyrim last year. Before that, I played the Dragon Age games. Obviously I spent a ton of time in Oblivion, and I'm waiting for that next big one. You know, the Mass Effect games are obviously they're sci-fi themed, but they're also less RPG-ish than the fantasy ones have been of late. And so I've been thinking to myself, you know what would be great is a new RPG for me, but I don't know that I'm really into the whole MMO thing. I may give it a try. I said it was Star Wars. I said, oh, maybe I'll give this one a try, but I didn't. And I may give this one a try, but I'm not signing up for the beta. So
like, dude, get there as fast as you can. Like the
keep it under control, buddy.
Shooters. Let's do it flying past. Like the first-person shooters, it all comes down to me is the group of people that I have to play with.
Right.
And if there's not enough people to play the MMORPG, then it's not fun. The whole thing is multiplayer. It can't, you know, unless this is going to be specifically it's really single player. Everything you can do is single player. If you group up with someone or if you happen to come back next to someone, it's going to be okay. Maybe that's where they're going to have it. Massive single player online RPG.
Well, that's kind of what was it Demon's Souls, I think was that, because the idea was everybody played on their own, but whatever people like, you could leave messages in game at certain places that anyone who's playing the game could see. Like you would never actually play against or with other people, but the world was kind of shared in some ways. So that something like that might work.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think almost like a game like Spartan Ops that's in Halo.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was saying, speaking of having a group to play with on online games, the new Spartan Ops chapters just went live earlier this week.
Awesome.
You know, some people are touting this as like downloadable content released for free, which is actually not true. It's just time-locked content that was on the disc. But and I'm not surprised that it was free. I was expecting it to be free. But that being said, I have been playing very little Deathmatch Halo 4, or even just regular matchmaking. I've been playing these Spartan Ops either with you or in generic matchmaking. There's something, I don't know if maybe I just played it out with Halo 2 and Halo 3, but I'm kind of over just going out and shooting other people. I kind of like the idea of, even if it's just a tiny little bit of plot, just a little bit like, all right, you and 3 friends are now going up against the Covenant or the Prometheans, and this little chunk is you got to get from this part of the map to that part of the map, and you got to kill everybody, go. I like that, I think, better than, all right, here's 12 guys in a room, and now you're all going to shoot each other. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just growing up.
No, and that was actually something that way back in the day, Rainbow Six did, Tom Clancy, where yes, the realistic shooter where it sucked because if you were playing a deathmatch that didn't have their deathmatch did not have ultimate respawn or unlimited respawn.
Okay,
it was you died, you hopefully the end of your whole squad will finish, and it literally was if you get like pinged in the chest, you died, which I guess, is more realistic than anything else.
Sure.
But that was something fun, was they had these chapters where literally what they did is they just took little bits of the game and they put it online so you can play with a couple people and just finish this chapter. And that was a lot of fun. And I think more and more of the co-op first-person shooter games are going to have more co-op-y type things. Whether it's, okay, yes, you can play the whole first-person campaign with a buddy, and we're going to have a separate kind of multiplayer co-op thing too. And I hope that's going to happen more. Sure, there will always be the deathmatch. I don't think that will ever go away.
Right.
But I like the evolution that's happening right here.
I agree. I totally agree. I think that, and I mean, some of it really comes down to the fact that, Halo 4 is in a lot of ways sort of 2 games. It's Halo 4, and then it's Halo 4's Spartan Ops sort of mission. Like, there's the plot where you play as Master Chief and you play through the story of the game, but then there's this sort of secondary piece. And I think some of that is 343 Industries really needing to just knock it out of the park on this one. They're taking over a huge franchise. They just really did not want to drop the ball. And so rather than say, we're going to pick one and do it great, they said, you know what, let's just do both of them. And so there's that. But then there's also the fact that, just like you're saying, like, the actual plot, the one that follows Master Chief, is interesting, but if they want this to continue to grow as a franchise, they're going to need to come up with more interesting things to handle. And I think doing it this way, where there's like a secondary mission objective, especially one that you can play as a team with your friends, I think that is definitely going to go good places for them.
Yeah, and here's the other thing is probably one of the reasons why they keep the standard as well be bloody murder if they took that away. I think it's getting to the point now where what's that? Am I breaking up?
You're breaking up. You know what? Let's put a capper on the Halo thing and move on to the next one. Maybe you'll clear up as we get to it. Also, I'll do a quick intro here. We've talked about THQ a bunch. I know THQ is one of the ones that you have sort of the stories that you've been following a lot. And they just had their auction yesterday where they were sort of their bankruptcy stuff. What did you pick up about this one?
Well, the one thing was that the South Park people themselves had a little clause in the contract that basically said if THQ shows that they are not doing the best they can, that South Park has the right to buy back all of the game at the cost it was made.
Right.
Which I thought is a really interesting clause and pretty ingenious, if I do say so myself. But THQ is saying, well, because we own the franchise, we cannot then give it back to you, the people who are the franchise rights versus the people of the franchise. I actually, the one thing that's bothering my mind is if you have lost everything and you are, bankrupt or whatever it is, wouldn't you want, and if someone says, I need $50 to get back on my feet, but someone says, well, I'm going to give you 20. Are you going to be like, no, dude, only 50? Like, who says that?
Well,
take the 20 and run.
Okay, but, well, here, let me just say here, because there are some results. I think they're all rumored at this point. But the prized asset Saints Row, it looks like it is going to CVG. CVG understands to merge together. I don't know. And then Homefront, it looks like, is going to... I don't know. Again, a lot of this is results as they're sort of coming in. Darksiders is sold. Metro is sold. I did actually read, and they've actually updated this article since the last time I looked at it. They did actually say that someone had purchased the South Park Stick of Truth, but it was obviously still sort of up in the air what was going to happen to it because, you know, the South Park people are basically saying we don't think that what they're saying is our contract says that if this happens, we're not up for sale. And THQ says it's an exclusive contract. And if we're dissolving our business, then it becomes something that we can sell. So it's yet to be seen how this is all going to shake out. But I mean, at this point now, obviously, any hope of THQ pulling themselves out of the fire has been gone for a while. And now we sort of see the vultures picking at the carcass a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if that auction had in of itself another like kind of rider that was like, I don't have to pay it. I'm not out anything if South Park, you know, wins their suit with THQ.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I don't think anyone would just be like, just give up whatever $4 million on a whim. Well, if I lose, it shocks.
Well, but again, this may be the kind of situation where these companies, $4 million for these companies is like $100 for us. So
yeah, but that's also why the THQs of the world are also failing.
Sure. I think the video is out of sync. Anyhow, last little bit that I wanted to mention is that our talk last week was all about the whole violence in video games thing. We played a little bit of Devil's Advocate. We sort of, you know, explored some things. And this week, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I don't think it actually deserves too much time. But Ralph Nader opened mouth and inserted foot earlier this week by reiterating his belief that video game developers are, in fact, quote, electronic child molesters. I think especially after our conversation last week, it's amazing to me how tone deaf some of these politicians are. You know, it was stylish back in the 80s and I guess even in the 90s to say video games really are the end of the world, and they're destroying our children. But I just think that as much as I think we as gamers need to elevate the level of discourse about these things and about the art form that we love, I think it's incumbent upon politicians and anybody else who's going to, you know, choose to actually comment on this for they themselves to be a little bit smarter about the way they go about it.
I guess it's the law of averages or the law of big numbers. And this is what I mean by that is right now, if you plug in Call of Duty and you watch what's going on, and then if you turn off the video and then you listen to what the people are talking about playing Call of Duty, people are going to be like, oh, this is the most popular game. Look how many people are playing it. This must be the snapshot of gaming.
Right.
However, there are millions of games that are out there just to help autism and the strives of getting paraplegics. There's all great benefits that video games are having and in the medical, and let's not even think that the teaching and there's all these things, but since it's not the average, the big game right now, and so it's easy for, yes, what's the most popular game? Let me turn it on and look at it, then looking at, okay, well, what's this other game? So I see
for me, I think here's what I think. I think that in the same way that if you were to look at what is the most watched video content in the world, what is it?
Oh, geez, that could be anything.
No, it couldn't. It's one thing. It's porn. Okay?
Oh, I thought you were talking about
more people
video
watch
games.
porn than anything. All right? That doesn't mean that Hollywood is screwed because everybody wants to watch porn. You know, in this and I think that's kind of the way that it is. Like, porn makes a lot of money. Porn is a lot of content out there, and that does not by itself negate the usefulness of the medium of narrative storytelling via film. In the same way that the fact that a realistic shooter being the most popular game out there does not negate video games in general. And I think it's a baby with the bathwater kind of situation. Like, you've got these people who say these games are awful, games are awful, and they want to then regulate and change or whatever. And I just think that, again, it's just an issue of just being completely tone deaf to the facts of the matter. Anyhow, so let's finish up here. So we've got, I just want a real quick rundown. You guys may have noticed that we are finally getting new games into GameMinder. We finally fixed up some stuff in the back end, and so the stream of games have begun. If you put a ticket in and you've been waiting for it to finally get in, hopefully within the next week that'll start happening. We're gonna probably see a big influx of games over the next week. As well as fixes to games that had incorrect dates in them. So just pay attention. That stuff will come through. Some of the games that are coming out this week, we've got Hitman HD Collection, No New Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, which I don't know much about, but based on my Reddit stream is just about the most amazing game that's ever come out. Strike Suit Zero is another one that comes out this week. So Jim, tell me, what did any of the new games that we added pique your interest this week?
Yes.
Tell me.
Yes. I think it was called Casual Corner, maybe. Casual something.
Corner. There's Chaos Chronicles.
Chaos Chronicles. I knew it was a CC somewhere.
There you go.
Basically, anytime where I see turn-based and old school, my ears perk up.
Nice.
And that's what this is. It's a old school turn-based game. So yeah, that's what's on my horizon.
Right on.
How about yourself?
Yeah, so you're going to laugh. The game that I followed this week was one that I went ahead and put in, and it's called The Amory Wars. Now, for anybody who is not familiar with the music of Coheed and Cambria, The Amory Wars is a science fiction story told through the band's music. And it's also told via a comic book story. And now it seems like it is, in fact, going to be told through a video game for, I believe, iOS and Android. So I think, well, iOS is confirmed. I think Android is rumored. So that's what I'm following, because anything that is more Coheed and Cambria, I'm a big fan of. So that's what I'm going to be following this week.
Excellent.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do the whole outro, since Jim should be keeping his eyes on the road. But that's going to do it for the GameMinder Report this week. If you enjoy what we do, why not subscribe by hitting the button at the bottom of the video right here? Or you can always subscribe via iTunes on GameMinderReport.com. And to view the show notes for this episode or follow any of the games mentioned today, don't forget to visit GameMinderReport.com/34. And don't forget to follow GameMinder on Facebook or Twitter, or get the app for your iPhone and Android phone. And finally, don't forget to buy all your games through the website or app. Every game you pre-order or purchase helps support the show and the service. Signing off for the GameMinder Report, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Jim.
Reminding you, don't forget to play.
To play.
Eyes on the road.